going to print this pattern. So here, what is the relation in the pattern? We are always printing the column values. Okay, which one represent the column value? This nested, this for loop represent the column value. So for the first row, how many column is printed? Only one. So I'm doing it like this. Then printf, I should print the column value. The j variable is representing the column value. Since j started with, yeah, this one must be I. This one must be I. Sorry. So this one is the j. Okay. So here j is always start with 0, but I have to print 1. So what I will do? %d j plus 1. Done. Okay. Then printf new line. And then since it is increasing with I, so now the pattern may be like this. Suppose 1, then it is 2, 3, then 4, 5, 6, then 7, 8, 9, 10, like this. Or suppose the pattern is like this: 1, then 2, 2, then 3, 3, 3, then 4, 4, 4, 4. So now, if it is a pattern like this, then see what I have printed. For first row, I have printed 1. For the second row, I have printed 2, 2. For the third row, I have printed 3, 3, 3. For the fourth row, I have printed. So it is actually what I am printing. I am printing the row value. The row value. So according to that, you have to modify this statement. Now in this case, see, one single variable is just increasing. One single variable. Suppose I have taken k equal to 1. So every time only k is printing. So what I have to, where I have to modify? I have to modify this statement, this printf statement. How to modify? This printf will becomes like this: printf %d k plus plus, where k is initialized outside the loop as 1. Done. And for this, how to modify this printf statement, this single printf statement? It will be modified to like this: printf %d. For this one, I am printing the value of row. Which one is representing row? I variable is representing the row. So I will print I plus 1. That's all. You see, the loop pattern is same. Hence the repetition is same. But only the value
Sir,
which I
can
am
you please
printing,
repeat?
which one?
Sir, can you please repeat? Sir, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3. Sir, that one.
Okay. So in the previous pattern, you have seen that what I have printed actually the column values. See 1, then 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So these are nothing but the column values. But in this pattern, what we have printed first 1, then 2, 2. So we are printing the row value. See, same row value. So this is row number 1, 1. Then row number 2, 2. Row number 3, 3. Row number 4, 4. So in this case, we are printing the value of the row. In this case, we have printed the value of the column. See, this is first column. This is second column. This is third column. This is fourth column. So in this case, we have printed which one is representing column variable. The j is representing column variable. This one for row representation. This one is for column representation. So that's why we have printed j plus 1. Since j started with 0, but we have to print 1, so we have printed j plus 1. For this one, we are printing the row value. So that's why this printf statement will be modified. Only this printf statement will be modified to this one. Okay, this one. So since I is representing the row value, so I am printing the value of I. See, I is initialized with 0, so I'm printing I plus 2. Now in this case, in this pattern, again the picture is same. It is increasing, star is increasing. So for loop, nested for loop is same. But here, see, one particular variable is increasing. So that's why I have taken one particular variable k, which is outside the for loops. Okay, and then when I'm printing, I'm just printing k plus plus. So first it will print 1, then k plus plus means next time it will print 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, like this. So you have to understand what pattern you have to print, whether it related with the column value or it is related to the row value. Okay. Similarly, there is one interesting pattern that is called Pascal's triangle. It is a little bit different, but it is called Pascal's triangle. Very interesting pattern. 1, then 1, 1, then 1, 2, 1, then 1, 3, 3, 1, then 1, 4, 6, 4, 1. So this is called Pascal's triangle. Okay. Now this is a very peculiar pattern, and the logic is like this. The sum of this two is printed here. Again, sum of this two will be printed here. Then sum of this two will be printed here. Then sum of this two will be printed here. Sum of this two will be printed here. Sum of this two will be printed here. And along with this, there is one printed before and one printed at the end. So what should be the next row? Next row, one printed here and one printed at the end. Then sum of this two. So it is 10. Sorry, this is 5. Then sum of this two. So this is 10. Sum of this two, 10. Sum of this two, 5. So this is the next row. Okay, this is called Pascal's triangle. To solve this, either you have to go for 2D structure, 2D array structure, or there is another interesting thing for this pattern. And if I don't tell you the pattern style, then it is very difficult to solve. Okay, now the pattern style is like this. This one in the first row, it is 0C0. I hope you can remember the permutation and combination. What is the formula of combination? N, C, R. The formula is N factorial divided by N minus R factorial into R factorial. Okay. So this is the definition of NCR. So this is 0C0. So it will give 1. Now in this one, what is printing? So it is 1C0, 1C1. Very clear? Then in this row, this is 2C0, 2C1, 2C2. Now I hope you understand the pattern. So for this third one, it is 3C0, 3C1, 3C2, 3C3. For this one, it is 4C0 like this. Now see, for this 5C0. What is 5C0? 5 factorial divided by 5 minus 0 factorial into 0 factorial. So it becomes 1. Now this is 1. Then 5C1. Then 5 factorial divided by 4 factorial into 1 factorial. So if I break it, 5 into 4 factorial, it means it is 5. So that's why it is 5. Then 5C2. 5C2 means 5 factorial divided by 3 factorial into 2 factorial. Now if I repeat this, 5 into 4 into 3 factorial. So this 3 factorial gone. This is 2 factorial means 2. So 2, 2, so it becomes 10, 10. Next one, 5C3. 5C3 means send this thing. So that's why we are getting 10. Then 5C4. Okay. So in this way, this pattern can be solved. Otherwise, it is very simple. There are blank spaces before and then the printing. There are other different patterns also. The pattern may be using some characters like this. Suppose it is like this, some characters A, then AB, then ABC. So if it is in this type of pattern, A, B, C, D, this type of pattern. So again, the nested for loop is as usual. It is increasing with row. It is same, but what you are printing, that is very different from the other values. Here, instead of printing some value or star, we are printing some characters. So my printf statement, this statement will be modified, this statement will be modified, this particular statement will be modified. And how it will be modified? You have to modify it like this. Instead of simple %d or star, here you have to print %c, and you have to remember the ASCII value. You have to remember the ASCII value of the starting characters. So there it is A. So I hope the ASCII value of A is 65. 65, is it for small a or capital I just forget. So 65, so you have to write it like this, j, which is initialized with 0, so j plus 65. Okay, so in this way you have to print the patterns. There is one very interesting pattern, that is that maybe using some star or maybe using some alphabet. The pattern is like this: star, then 2 star, then 3 star, and then in this side again 3 star, then in this line 2 star, and in this line 2 star. It may be using some star, or sometimes it may be with some alphabet. So there is blank, there is blank, there is blank, there is blank in the next row, blank, blank. So the pattern is like this. So here you can easily understood that there is a pattern like this, then one pattern like this, and then one pattern like this. Okay, so inside a for loop, this for loop is for number of rows. Inside this, for printing the first row, you have to use 3 different for loops. The first for loop for this star, okay. Next for loop for blank spaces, the next for loop again for star, and then one new line, printf new line. So you have to take care this thing. So in this way, you have to understand the patterns. There is another interesting pattern which very uh, uh, very many times come in exam like this. This is very interesting pattern. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, like this. So if you break it like this, suppose like this. So what is happening? It is increasing. Suppose this part is not present. This part is not present. Then it is simple: 1, then 1, 2, then 1, 2, 3, then 1, 2, 3, 4, this time. So then again it is continuing. It is not stopped here. It is still continuing. So according to that, so after the last printed value, it will continue. So after the last printed value, it will continue until it becomes 1. So you have to understand that, and you have to, according to that, you have to print the pattern. So these are your uh, means food for your brain. You have to solve these problems. So this is one particular pattern. There is another interesting pattern we used to solve, that is 1 then 1 0 then 1 0 1. So binary pattern. So 1 0 1 0, this like this, and there is another 1 0 1 1 0 1, then 0 1 0 1. So just try to solve these patterns in your textbook. You will see many other different patterns. So try to solve all the patterns. If you face any difficulty, just tell me in the next class that, sir, I have faced difficulty to print this type of pattern. So I will just try to make you comfortable or make you easy, so that you are able to solve those patterns problems. Okay, now I will go for one program, that is not program, one algorithm which is called bubble sort. Okay, so this is one sorting algorithm. So bubble sort. So I will try to solve this bubble sort, and then I will show you how the nested structure is used in case of bubble sort. So first, the bubble sort technique. The bubble sort technique is very simple. Suppose there are some unsorted animals, sorry, elements. So in a single look, it seems that they are sorted, but I need ascending order. It is in totally in different order. So you can say this is not sorted order. So I have to make it sorted in ascending order, smaller to greater. Okay. Now the algorithm is very simple. The bubble sort algorithm. What you have to do? You have to compare the adjacent element. These are called the adjacent. Okay, you have to compare the adjacent element. If the elements are in ascending order, then okay. Otherwise, what you have to do, you have to swap them, you have to interchange them. So this is the logic of bubble sort. So the logic is compare the adjacent elements if they are in required order, then okay. Otherwise, interchange. So this is the logic of the bubble sort. So for this set of elements 55, 44, 33, 22, 11. So first I will compare the first two adjacent elements, these two. They are not in order, so I will interchange them. Okay, 44, there comes the 55. Okay, then as it is. Then I will go for the next set of elements, adjacent element, this two. Okay, this two will be compared. And if they are not in order, then what I will do, I will interchange. So after this, 33 will come here, then 55, then as it is. Okay, then the next two adjacent element, this two. Okay, again they are not in order, so what I will do, I will interchange. So after this 44, 33, 22, 55, and the rest. Okay, then the next two adjacent element, this two element, they are not in order, so I will interchange them. Okay, so finally after the first iteration, see, after the first iteration, one particular element, that is the 55, got its proper position. This is the final position of 55. So this is my first iteration. So iteration number one. And after the first iteration, one or you can say the maximum element will get its proper position. Maximum element gets its proper position. Now I have to repeat the same thing again for the rest of the elements, this set of elements. Okay, so if initially there are n number of elements, after first iteration I have to perform the same operation for n minus 1. So it is decreasing. So now 44, 33, 22, 11 and 55 already shorted. Okay, from the rest again I will compare the adjacent element, then interchange, and this will move up to this. So the last picture of this step is this one. So there comes 33, 22, 11, then the 44 and 55 already shorted. Then after this 44 again shorted. Now can you tell me how many iteration or how many interchange I have to perform to get from there to there? From there to there, how many iteration I have to perform? See, for this, how many elements are there? There are 5 elements. How many adjacent comparison I have performed? 1 comparison, 2 comparison, 3 comparison, 4 comparison. So for 5 elements, I have compared 4 adjacent elements. So when it becomes 4 elements, so how many iteration I have to perform, or how many comparison? I have to perform 3. First this 2, then this 2, then this 2, 3 comparison, and after that I will get another element shorted. Again I have to perform the same operation for rest. So now it becomes n minus 2. First number of element n, then n minus 1, now n minus 2. So with the increase of iteration, the number of elements are decreasing. Okay, so just try to convert it in a form of code. So what I have done, so my for loop, this is the adjacent element comparison. So how I have compared? So I have compared this one. If this one is 0th element, then I have compared it with the first element. Then if this is first element, I have compared it with the second element. In this way I have compared. So if I try to convert it, so my I is 0, and how many times I have to perform this? Since there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 number of elements, I have compared it 4 times. So if there are n number of elements, then I have to compare it n minus 1 time, correct? So I equal to 0, I less than n minus 1. I'm just giving you the idea how this nested for loop is used for this bubble sort. So this is for adjacent element comparison. So I have compared which one? If this is I, then I have compared it with I plus 1, correct? So I'm comparing, compare I with I plus 1. Okay, then what I have to do? If they are not in order, not in order means if the ith element is greater than I plus 1th element, if this element is greater than this element, then I have to interchange. Then what I will do, I will interchange, which is also called swapping. So I am swapping I and I plus 1th element. Okay, this is the main comparison and swapping. I have to repeat this. See, after one iteration, I will get one element shorted. After second iteration, I will get another element shorted. So how many iteration I have to perform? I have to perform, if there are n number of elements, I have to perform n minus 1 iteration. Why? One less, because the last single element will be by default shorted. So I have to perform, or I have to repeat this for n minus 1 times. So for j equal to 0, j less than n minus 1, j plus plus. Okay, and if you say it properly, with the increase of row, with the increase of iteration, my number of elements are decreasing. It means I have to use a minus j here. Is it clear? Why minus j? Because with the increase of iteration j, this j is giving me the iteration number. So with the increase of iteration, my number of elements are decreasing. My comparing now adjacent element is decreasing. That's why I am using n minus 1 minus j. So same logic, same loop logic, nested loop logic is used here also. Okay. So the next very important thing in case of any loop, that is the loop interruption. And we have already seen one interruption statement, that is the break statement. Okay, we have seen it in our switch case. In our switch case, we have seen it. So break is used to interrupt any loop or terminate. If you want to terminate from a loop, you will use this break statement. There is another statement which is also used, which is called continue. And we have seen that in case of switch case, there is no need of continue statement, but in case of loop, there is a particular use for the continue statement. So if you use anywhere inside the loop a continue statement, what it will do, it will, if you use it inside any loop structure, if you use continue inside any loop structure, then what it will do, it will skip the rest of the loop statements. It will skip. Okay, and for break, if you use inside any loop structure, it will terminate from that loop structure. So just a hints. So suppose there are for loop like this, for, okay, then inside this for, and suppose inside this for, okay. So just try to understand. Suppose you have used the break statement here inside this for loop, then it will come out from this for loop. Okay, if you use break statement inside this for loop, suppose here, then it will only come out from this for loop. So where you are using the break statement, that is very important. Okay, so when you are using any break statement, if you are using it inside a for loop, it will terminate from that for loop. Okay, now instead of break statement, if you use a continue statement, then what will happen? That is very interesting. Suppose inside a for loop, we have written the for loop like this. I am a little bit hurry because anytime my geo will shut down, so I'm a little bit hurry, so forgive me. So suppose you have used some condition here, then you have written continue. Suppose you have written continue, then there are statement 1, then statement 2, like this. Suppose this is your for loop where you have used the continue statement. Then what will happen, if this condition is satisfied, then continue means it will not execute the rest of the statement. It will jump directly to this part, this modification part. So these two statements will not be executed. Now, if you use here a break statement, what will happen? If you use a break statement here, it will come out from the loop. It will come out from the loop outside here, outside. If you use continue, it will skip these two statements and just go into I++. But there is very interesting thing. But if you use it inside a while loop, then it is very difficult. It is very difficult. Suppose the same thing I'm writing, continue, okay? And in while loop, after this statement 1 and statement 2, we generally use the modification part, correct? In while loop, why? Where we use the modification part? At the end. So if you write a continuous statement here, it will directly come from this part to this part. So there will be no modification of the value of I, because all these statements will be skipped. All the statement will be skipped. Here only these two statements are skipped. Logic clear? But still this I plus plus, this thing will happen. So it will increase the value of I. But in case of while or do while, there will be no increase or increment of this I plus plus. So that's why it becomes infinite. It becomes infinite. But here in case of for loop, it is okay. Okay. So that's why, so this is another example why we prefer for loop rather than the while or do while. Now still, since using for loop you can represent while and do while, but still there are some very specific application for do while, and you should understand where we should go for do while. Since in case of do while, first you are taking the input, then you are checking the condition. So that's why do while loop having a specific application, and generally do while loop we used where there some user input is asked, user input, and check the validation of the input. If this type of thing you need to do, then better go for do while. Suppose there is a menu driven program, there is a menu driven program, and inside the menu driven program it is said that for 1, if you press 1, if you enter 1, then it will go for insert. If you press 2, it will go for deletion. Logic clear? So there is a menu driven program where the menu is depends, or the function execution is depends on user input. In those type of things we prefer do while loop. Why? Because in case of do while loop, first we take the input, then we check whether it is correct or not. That's why do while loop having some specific use, and it has the specific use where we should take user input and then validate whether it is correct or not. Okay. So with this, I'm ending today's class, and if you have any query, then please uh, tell me in the next class, at the beginning of the next class, that sir, I have this difficulties, because I am not going to continue anymore, because my geo will be soon stopped. So with this, I'm ending today's class. Bye bye.